Yeah, welcome. We're continuing our reading group on Aristotle's Politics. We have read up to the end of chapter 6 in book 1, and I'm going to start us off with an attempt at a kind of just a reminder or recap of the last two sessions, I think. The session that was 2 sessions ago, it's a bit far from memory, but what was a real outtake from that was thinking about this about parts and the parts relationship to the whole, and the idea that the part derives its being from the whole or it wholly belongs to the whole. Then in the last session, we thought about reason and desire, about master and slave relationship, about the possibility of there being a natural slave or what a natural slave is. And that was connected to a distinction that we really hovered around for quite a while, which saw the soul and the body as opposites, and then reason and desire as being opposed. I don't know if opposites is the correct thing to say, but that there's a distinction between soul and body and reason and desire. And the natural slave was looking like someone who was a body ruling a soul. And we were struggling to even imagine what that might look like. That led into the idea of the ways in which the master-slave relationship comes about. One difference being a slave who comes about by convention or by conquest, by war, and that can create a situation where a master-slave relationship is not natural because the slave is not a natural slave, but has become a slave because of convention. And I think that was what got us to the end of chapter 6 in book 1. So that's my best go at a kind of introductory summary to where we've been. I don't know if it provokes or reminds either of you of something more.
Did we read chapter 6 together? Did you guys read it when I wasn't here?
I took a note.
We read it together.
We did, okay.
Worth rereading?
I think towards the end, Daniel got cut off, and the two of us were left online.
I do remember talking about the friendship of the friendship between the slave and the master, which is at the end of chapter 6 here. And connecting that to them serving each other in some way and benefiting each other.
That might be a good starting point. Should we read the section where it comes up again, or just try and
Oh, it's the very last
jump
sentence.
in?
There is thus a certain advantage and even a friendship of slave and master for one another, for those slaves who merit being such by nature, but for those who do not merit it in this way, but who are slaves according to convention and by force, the opposite is the case. So I guess it's also worth reminding ourselves that he's arguing against taking slaves by war here. He acknowledges that there is one understanding of justice as a sort of a force by which that would be just, but that he's disagreeing with that way of understanding the just and the unjust. And for him, those people aren't friends towards each other. One is dominated by the other and is not benefited. The slave captured in war is not benefited through their slavery in the way that the slave by nature is benefited.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an important and helpful link, that the difference in the account of justice that gives rise to, well, the justification for taking on a slave. Then it's like the fact that some master slave relationships can engender friendship is almost like it's an after the fact argument for the opposing account of justice, but we haven't really um it feels like we're just beginning the question of justice, or it's just been introduced.
Yeah, in some ways, the Greeks have a much more, in most ways, really, they have a much more sort of down to earth understanding of this thing that we call justice. I mean, he seems, when he talks about a sort of an account of justice on which the person who wins the war by by has a just right to take the loser as a slave. He's talking about something that is very reminiscent of Thrasymachus's claim in the Republic that justice is just the interest of the stronger. And something sort of, yeah, I don't really know how to say this in a way that doesn't sound silly. But I mean, when they're talking about justice, they're talking about the way we relate to each other. It's not something we can decide to have or not. We're just going to have a system of justice because we're going to relate to each other. We're political. And I think about money a lot as a sort of a system of justice. I mean, it kind of is. It's the way each one of us relates to each other, and each one of us does our part in society. It's one way of organizing the way we do our parts relative to each other in society. I'm not sure it's a very good one, but to Aristotle, that would be whether or not people claim that it is that's what they're doing. He would identify that as a way of understanding just relations. I do this and you give me money for it, and you do that and I give you money. The money serves as a way to equate the way we are related, the work we're doing. And that equation is the just relation. It's one type of just relation, at least. So there's
Yeah.
something like that going on. Sorry, can you guys hear that? That's probably a little bit. There's something like that going on in relation between the master and the slave, but it's not money. One of them is providing physical work, and the other one is providing some sort of psychological structuring. So they're engaged in a relation with each other. The fact that it's a friendship makes it sound like, for Aristotle in the Nichomachean Ethics, justice is almost like a pale imitation of friendship. So the fact that he's calling the relationship of friendship is making it sound like it's even more than just. It's not the way we think about masters and slaves at all. It's quite strikingly different, actually.
We have kind of like we have the concept of like a mentor, um or like a teacher, or um very very rarely we use the word like a master, although it's kind of there in like the university structure. There's like a master's degree.
Yeah, that
The
I think that comes from mastering a subject, not from mastering a person, probably.
like yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to open like the like what what is the domain of that relationship. So like um and also like to include the money example, which I think is very helpful. It's like because the question of the limit of money would be like, is there something that is exchangeable that isn't uh quantifiable or isn't able to be represented by money, by that manner of exchange? But I think my previous direction was probably more fruitful, or like wondering about the domain of the relationship.
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by the domain, and I think I may have confused the issue a little bit here by talking about justice and friendship, although it's not my fault. Aristotle's doing it as well. And the uh, teacher student or master craftsman and what's that called when you do like a apprenticeship, the master and apprentice relationship, seem they fit much better with the friendship relationship than the just relationship. You don't really need justice when you have a friendship, is Aristotle's claim in the Nichomachean Ethics. And it's at the end of this chapter 6, you have this discussion of slavery where he argues for the justness of a certain form of slavery. He goes all the way to friendship, which is pretty striking here.
Yeah.
I don't want to get us too far off topic here, but the relationship between justice and friendship is a really interesting one, I think. In justice, there are the if you and I are in a just relationship, there's in some way the two of us need to be equalized. What you provide and what you receive, and what I provide and what I receive, it all has to balance out. In a friendship, the relationship between us, the unity between us is tighter. And because the unity is tighter, we don't even need to equalize a relation. The benefit is it's in a way it's the same for both of us. If you're not deriving a benefit from the friendship, it's not a friendship. And if it is a friendship, then I'm automatically deriving the benefit as well. So nothing needs to be equalized.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes the master slave example as friendship. Sorry for interrupting, but
No, go ahead.
it makes the example it makes that master slave example really interesting because the assumption would be that the benefit is on the side of the slave. But if it's friendship, then the master is benefiting by the relationship. Um, in the way you're expressing now, like the the equalizing. I'm like wondering what that is.
The benefits on both sides, if it's a friendship. Friendships are reciprocal. So
Yeah,
if only one person gets the benefit, it's not a friendship, it's a job. And if I'm doing if you're doing a job for me, then I owe you some sort of reciprocal. I have to pay you, or I have to do something for you. That's what we need justice for. But if the
yeah,
relationship is reciprocal, then nobody's going to have to pay anybody else back because it's the same activities benefiting both of us. And that's what he seems to
yeah,
think going on here in this natural master-slave relation.
So is the benefit derived from the master, like the physical work that would be done
It could be.
in the yeah.
Could be. Depends on the relation, I guess. The slave seems to
Yeah.
have, he says here that the slave seems to have the stronger body, and the master has the weaker body and the stronger soul. That was in chapter 5. Nature wishes to make the bodies of free persons and slaves different as well as their souls. Those of the latter stronger with a view to necessary needs, those of the former straight and useless for such tasks, but useful with a view to a political life.
Oh. Thinking either we read or I'm wondering what Sipo's thinking.
No, I was just wondering if the other relationships that he had mentioned work in the same way or not, like the men and woman. What was the other one? Child and
Father, son, yeah.
parent, something like that. Father, son, yeah. I'm wondering if they also require friendship or they require justice. Mm.
The
Or is it,
parent, sorry, go ahead, Sipa, I shouldn't have interrupted there.
no, I'm just wondering if this friendship requirement is only tied to the master-slave relationship. As I'm thinking back to the question if all examples of ruling are done the same or if they done differently. I think the question was way in the beginning.
That might be two different questions here. The first one is about the friendship, whether or not the father-son is a friendship.
Mm.
Friendship, the word for friendship is just philos, right? It's just love. And the other is if they're different kinds of ruling.
Mm.
So what do you think? Does a father love a son? Hopefully.
Yeah, under the impression, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's in book 9 of the Nichomachean Ethics, he talks a lot about, book 9 is about friendship. Books 8 and 9 are both about friendship, actually. This is a lot about friendship. 2 out of 10 books, the Nichomachean Ethics. Book 9, he talks a lot about the parent-child relationship. And it's a friendship. He uses it as one of the paradigm examples, maybe the paradigm example of a friendship among unequals. So friendship, it's got to be reciprocal. And ideally, or in the most obvious case, friendship is between two people who are roughly the same. You and I we're studying the politics together. And when two people study together, one sees something before the other. So sometimes you're going to point things out to me, and sometimes I'm going to point things out to you. And we're both going to benefit from studying together. And even if I'm pointing something out to you, I'm benefiting because it's helping me to learn it by pointing it out to you. And it's helping you to have it pointed out and vice versa. And neither of us owe the other anything afterwards because we're both benefiting in the same way. Father-son relationship is, this might become increasingly important for you as the months go by here. The father-son relationship is a friendship between unequals. The son doesn't do as much for the father as the father does for the son. So in some sense, it stretches, the inequality stretches the limits of friendship, but he still thinks it's a love relationship. It's not, it would be unjust for the son to do something bad to the father, but it's really love that is the obligation. Yeah, there's obviously much more to that. It's weird. It's weird. It turns out that the father, this is part of how we know it's not, doesn't work exactly like justice. I think this is part of how we know. It turns out that the father loves the son more than the son loves the father, for Aristotle. Well, why does it turn out that way? The father benefits the son. Shouldn't the son love the father? Because Aristotle thinks that the person who, we love that which we benefit more than we love that which benefits us. It's pretty strong.
I don't know. It doesn't sound that strange. It sounds more convincing.
Doesn't it?
Otherwise, you wouldn't be
Yeah.
pouring yourself in.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
The parent loves the mother even more so, because the mother does even more. She gives of her body to the child. He doesn't seem to be wrong, but it's an interesting uh, dynamic. But the master slave, it's it's slightly different. There's more of an equality between master and slave than between father and son in a lot of ways, in terms of mutual benefit. I guess the
Yeah, I
mutual.
think
Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
it's helping me understand my previous question about like what benefit the master's deriving. And so this idea that like we love that which we benefit more. Like I'm really wondering about why that is the case, or what that tells us about benefit or identity, or
We love our own work.
like how could that be so? Say again?
We love our own work.
Okay. So, but the so in the context of the father-child, the it's a love for the context of the work, and then the child is one's own work in terms of the like reproductive consequence, but then also the shaping of the child through life. Um,
Yeah.
but
I think he's more interested in the second one.
yeah,
It's worth dwelling on this, since this is a part of Sipo's near future here.
yeah.
No stress, Sipo, no stress.
Stress, little stress. Yeah.
But I mean, like, so then my like why is that the case? Like why? Because it would seem strange, because the counter example would be like, I love which benefits me because it benefits me. Like it's the if I'm benefited. So obviously I love the source of that that benefiting. That's why it's a it makes sense, but it almost shouldn't make sense that benefiting another is a greater source
Yeah,
of love, or
I don't know.
We're
I don't
not
know
going
if
to get
I
very
love
far.
the source. No, I'm saying I don't know if I love the source of some benefits more than I love the benefits. Like if I do a job, like most of the jobs I've done, I've loved getting paid more than like, doing the actual job if the job was just a nightmare to get through. So I don't know if I love the source.
Well, what sort of jobs are you talking about?
I used to thingy do tiling and thingy paving. I didn't
Did you
like it, but I liked
did you
getting paid.
did you feel your that you were expressing yourself and reproducing yourself in some way in the tiling? Feel like you were somehow yeah, expressing yourself in your work, or was it some sort of forced labor?
It was it was
If you're not
more it was
expressing
more
yourself,
forced.
yeah.
Yeah, it was
If
more
you're not
forced
exp
because I needed the money.
And not just that. I mean, did you get to decide what sort of pattern the tiles in, or how, or what sort of shape you paved the?
Nah, the person who wanted it decided for you. For you, you just did it.
Yeah, you don't get to see yourself in the work. It's a different kind of labor.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I have a, a couple of friends. We've been also reading Aristotle together. We're reading the Nichomachean Ethics. We've been reading about friendship, and they're both parents of young kids, and they found um, it really spoke to them. This seeing themselves in the work that they're doing on these kids. I think you will find the experience different from tiling. That's just a guess.
Fair enough.
Is
Fair enough.
is the benefit there then in seeing yourself in? Is it in the recognition of yourself that the work affords? Is this why we love it more, or
Yeah, it's our life. It's our activity. It's us. We all love ourselves. There's nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
It's the other
There is
side.
no.
The other side's just as interesting. Do we always love the person who benefits us? There's a resentfulness that can come along with that. If you feel like you know you've taken too much from a person, like they've benefited you too much, there's like an embarrassment that goes with that.
Yeah.
Inhibit the love. Hopefully that's not the case with children, although I don't know, it's making me want to apologize to my parents as we're talking about this.
Yeah, but sure. Because I mean that like it's like that's almost necessary in the movement of becoming oneself apart from one's parents, and it can kind of happen in a less than ideal, maybe even nasty way, but there's a way in which even that kind of betrayal is itself um kind of realizing what your parents would want for you anyway, like this the shorthand that thinking about motherhood as kind of succeeding and failing. So like the mother succeeds when the child is given to the world properly. So then if the motherhood is the caring and nurturing for, it kind of has to fail in order for it to be successful. You fail at nurturing and containing, and that very moment is the moment in which the child becomes part of the world. So it's like this. So then the are we speaking about like the parents' enjoyment, or it's their love for? Um, I'm really trying to like hover on this idea that we love that which we benefit more than what benefits us, because it's we relate to it, but it's like not obvious that that is should be the case, or
Yeah, I mean, we could talk
if
about that
I
a lot, but what should we? Maybe we should keep going here. We want to make some progress in the text. We don't have to. I'm happy to dwell on this.
yeah, I'm split. Maybe
I'm
sequel
interested to
can.
see where this is going. No, I'm interested to see where this is going. Like the
Okay, okay.
challenge.
Then I can offer uh, the because if I enjoy, it's like a deferred self-interest. My friendship of my child is this context in which I can come to recognize myself more fully, which is my benefit. So that it comes back into my benefit. But then it seems like you can and or you almost should push it because there's like an end to that relationship, and that's something like the equalizing or the becoming separate of the child. And then it's almost like this question of loving the other whom we benefit in a way that it can't benefit me in return, or I don't know if that's clear. But I guess then my question is more there of like why in that instance, if there isn't this like far-sighted self-interest, why even then do we love benefiting um, the other more than being benefited?
Is the is the far-sighted interest a problem if it's a friendship? Isn't the whole thing behind a friendship that both parties benefit? Uh, is there a problem if the parent does benefit from I don't know, benefiting the child or raising the child? Sorry, my
I don't
Yeah,
sister's
you're
calling.
helping me.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'll just call her back later.
I don't think the mother stops being a mother when the child becomes
Yeah,
a the friendship doesn't she doesn't she doesn't stop loving the child when the child leaves home. I've never been a mother, but I'm pretty sure that's not the way the relationship works.
the
Yeah,
nurturing
There's
seems
all
to
sorts of
go.
ways it can go wrong. Like
Mm,
a mother who loves herself in the wrong way and so doesn't allow the child to leave because she wants the child to remain with her is not that loving relationship has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong in that case. But in raising the child to
yeah,
be an independent human being, she's not raising the child to end the relationship, to nullify the relationship. They're still mother and child, or mother and son, or mother and daughter. It's not, I guess, not child anymore, but it's still a loving relationship. And the child owes it to the mother to take care of her when she gets old. there is a reciprocity, and in some sense that the inequality is rectified. In some sense, it's never fully recognized. You can never pay back your mother, according to Aristotle. I think he says that explicitly. You can never pay back your parent. It's not possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it would be more than unjust to not take care of her when she gets old. It would be unfriendly, unloving.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm thinking
It,
as you're taking care of your parents, that somehow fits under the parent child, I guess, parent child relationship, even though now the child is doing the taking care of the parent.
Yeah. The
Mm.
last stage of the relationship, I guess.
Mm. Had something.
yeah.
Had something.
It's
Yeah,
worth
should we
I
go on reading?
still have this niggling.
Sipo, you might consider reading those sections of the Nichomachean Ethics. Might be interesting to read it now.
Mm. Got me at a good time. I'm actually reading it, except I'm like still at like book 3. They got me at a good time.
You're in book 3 of the
Saying I should
Nichomachean Ethics.
jump to
No, don't jump. If you're reading it, just keep going.
mm.
You got time.
Come again, I have time. It doesn't feel like it. I was reading it for different reasons. Now you're making me think. Now you're making me think of other reasons. And
What
even those
reasons?
reasons, I don't feel like I have time at all.
What reasons were you reading it for?
Thesis. I was reading it for help my thesis. Yeah. Now it's like, yeah. I want to try and read this, the ethics, uh, the Republic again, and the laws. I've never read the laws, so I have no idea what's in it. Should we go on? Like I want to see like how this all ties up to the questions that were presented initially.
Yeah, let's keep going here. We're almost halfway through book 1.
Steady. I can't read today. My computer's acting up.
All right, should I read? Can you guys even hear me properly?
Yeah. Oh, did you get a copy of the book?
Yeah.
Digital copy, Larry. I didn't go to the library.
All right.
Digital.
Just hope for you yet.
Not yet. The previous remarks are quite enough to show that the rule of a master is not a constitutional rule, and that all the different kinds of rules are not, as some affirm, the same with each other. For there is one rule exercised over subjects who are by nature free, another over subjects who are by nature slaves. The rule of a household is a monarchy, where every house is under one head, whereas constitutional rule is a government of free men and equals. The master is not called a master because he has science, but because he is of a certain character. And the same remark applies to the slave and the freeman and the free man. Still, there may be a science for the master and the science for the slave. The science of the slave would be such as the man of, I don't know this word, what? Syracuse taught, whatever that means, of Syracuse taught, who made money by instructing slaves in their ordinary duties. And such a knowledge may be carried further so as to include cookery and similar menial arts. For some duties are of the more necessary, others the more honorable sort. As the proverb says, slave before slave, master before master, but all such branches of knowledge are servile. Should I keep going?
Yeah, you might as well finish the chapter here. Be close.
Okay. There is likewise the science of the master, which teaches the use of slaves, for the master as such is concerned not with the acquisition, but with the use of them. Yet this so-called science is not anything great or wonderful, for the master need only know how to order that which the slave must know how to execute. Hence, those who are in a position which places them above toil have stewards who attend to their households while they occupy themselves with philosophy or with politics. But the art of acquiring slaves, I mean of justly acquiring them, differs from the art of the master and the art of the slave, being a species of hunting or war. Enough of the distinction between master and slave. Yeah, this guy likes doing this. So, so essentially, a slave needs to know how to do something, and then a master needs to know how to tell slaves to do something. Am I understanding this right? How to get them to do what they know how to do?
It's unclear what's going on here.
I would have thought the master would have knowledge of the thing that needs to be done. You wanna read your translation, Larry?
You want me to read the whole chapter here?
Yeah, I'm not in a rush.
All right. Yeah, I can do that. It is evident from these things as well that mastery and political rule are not the same thing, and that all the sorts of rule are not the same as one another, as some assert. For the one sort is over those free by nature, the other over slaves. And household management is monarchy, for every household is run by one alone, while political rule is over free and equal persons. Now, the master is so called not according to a science he possesses, but through being a certain sort, and similarly with the slave and the free person. Still, there could be a science of mastery and one of slavery. The science of slavery would be the sort of thing provided through the education offered by the fellow in Syracuse. For someone there used to receive pay for teaching slave boys their regular serving chores. And there might be additional learning in such matters, for example, in cookery and other service of this type. For certain works are more honored or more necessary than others, and as the proverb has it, slave before slave, master before master. All things of this sort, then, are sciences of slavery, of the science of mastery is expertise in using slaves, since the master is what he is not in the acquiring of slaves, but in the use of them. This science has nothing great or dignified about it. The master must know how to command the things that the slave must know how to do. Hence, for those to whom it is open not to be bothered with such things, a steward assumes this prerogative, while they themselves engage in politics or philosophy. Expertise in acquiring slaves is different from both of these. That is, the just sort of acquiring, which is like a certain kind of war or hunting. Concerning slave and master, then, let the discussion stand thus.
Yeah. Let me see if I'm tracking it. So master and political ruler are not the same thing. The master is being a certain sort, and then the political ruler is one who's over free and equal persons. The master is not the domain of science. The domain of science is in the political ruler. But then that changes a bit in terms of there being a science of slavery and a science of
Yeah, I don't know what you mean
mastery.
by domain of science, actually. Science just means, science just translates the word, probably translates the word episteme, which is just knowledge.
Okay, so the master is not because of their knowledge, it's because of being a certain sort. The political ruler is because of a knowledge.
Well, yeah, that's a good question. Does he say the political ruler is through a knowledge? It does kind of seem like he's implying that, but he doesn't actually say it, does he?
From what I remember, what he says over free and equal persons. So I might be jumping with that association. That's what differentiates a political.
The political ruler and the master are distinguished because one rules over free people and the other one rules over slaves.
Ah,
Right? I
yeah,
thought that
I
I
think
thought I was
so, but that
repeating I
wasn't.
thought I was repeating what you said. I think
Well, it was more than repeating. It clarified. Um, but I don't. That's not the only distinction. The other distinction is that the master is being a certain sort, and then the and then that's why I think I made the jump with the knowledge being in the domain of the political ruler.
right. Right. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. You might be right to make that jump, but maybe we should leave it aside. In fact, it's not even clear what it means to say that the master is through being a certain sort. I guess it's the sort that rules over non-free instead of the sort that rules over free, which makes each of them of a certain sort.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. And still, there can be a science of mastery. Well, what's the science of mastery?
Ruling
How to use
over.
slaves.
It's how to use slaves, but it's what do you have to know how to use slaves? So if the slave is the person, what are his examples here? Who's cooking? Do you have to know how to cook?
Doesn't seem like it, yeah.
He's distinguishing between mastery and political rule, but there's something kind of similar going on here. I mean, we've talked about the architectonic structure of a state for Aristotle. Right? We talked about this we probably talked about this at the beginning of these meetings, but you guys have definitely talked about this with me in relation to the Nichomachean Ethics when we read the first chapter together. The horse rider rules the bridle maker.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but the horse rider doesn't rule the bridle maker by knowing how to make bridles. Doesn't have to know how to make bridles. He rules the bridle maker by knowing how to ride a horse. And in knowing how to ride a horse, he knows how to use a bridle and knows what the point of the bridle is. So he can dictate to the bridle maker if the bridle is made well or not without knowing how to do it.
Mm.
I think we're getting something like that here. The master doesn't have to know how to cook to use the slave who is a cook. Just needs to know what the point of the cooking is going to be. Know how to use the cooking. Know when to cook or what to cook. I don't know. The science of slavery would know how to cook.
Mm. I don't know why this is. I think once you had us do I don't know whether I was tutoring for you, and then you made these guys do try to find an argument on Machiavelli's The Prince. For some reason, this is reminding me of the beginning of that text when they were looking for an argument.
Thanks.
I think
You're crocked.
Thanks. Sorry, what was that?
Something. No, I was saying I think it was something along the lines of the craft of the prince is knowing how to rule over his domain or something like that. I don't know. There was can't even remember what year it was where you had, I think you were teaching third years, I think, something on teaching, and then you had them try to find an argument in the prince, and then it was making a claim similar to this. For some reason, this whole craft of the master is reminding me of that now. Yeah, I don't know why I thought the master, for some reason, I intuitively thought the master would have to have knowledge of the work that has to be done.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I think he has the same thing in mind here as the horse rider and bridle maker. The one who dictates has to know the use, has to know the why, not the how.
What the
Yeah,
so
and
that example.
it's striking that it's similar to the political ruler.
Mm.
So we have to keep in mind the distinction at the very beginning of the chapter, that in the case of the master, he's ruling over unfree people, and in the case of the political ruler, he's ruling over free people. So you can see how that would be different. You know, I can't just command the bridle maker. The horse rider can't just command the bridle maker under threat of whatever. It's a different type of persuasion that's required. You can appeal to. This is why I think that the concept of natural and unnatural in slavery is so important for Aristotle. In relation to the free person, you persuade them by appealing to their reason. In the case of this person, he's identified as a natural slave. You can't appeal to their reason. So there's some other way of ruling. But in another sense, rulership is rulership. So he's pointing to a similarity even as he's distinguishing them.
Can you guys clarify the part where it says the proverb says slave before slave, master before master? For me, I'm a bit.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. Because I think before that he was saying something about the slave teaching. I don't know whether I misunderstood that. Like the slave teaching slaves. I think, yeah, it's exactly when he starts talking about what the science of the slave is. The science of a slave would be such as the man of whatever this is, Syracuse taught, who made money by instructing slaves in their ordinary duties. Like, I don't understand that he's saying science of. I don't understand like how he's using that example.
My footnote here just has a reference to Philemon, fragment 53. I guess that's who said that. I'm not sure what he means, slave before slave, master before master. Maybe that a slave, like I think you were just suggesting, a slave learns how to do what they do from somebody else who does it, and a master learns how to do what he does from somebody else who does it.
I just throw my entire understanding upside down. So I guess when I was thinking the master would have the knowledge, the master would have the knowledge and would be telling the slaves how to do it. Seems here saying that the person who has the knowledge and is teaching the slaves how to do it is another slave.
Yeah, it's unclear. I don't know who this fellow in Syracuse is. I don't know who that is.
It is what it is.
Chapter 8.
Should we go on?
Yeah.
Well, what about this? The art of acquiring slaves is kind of like war, or what was that the last line? The art of
Yeah.
acquiring is something like hunting,
Hunting.
kind of like hunting.
Yeah.
And
Windows are open. It's the
the
spring.
When
so
you're around people later, you probably sound like a sick person talking about the art of acquiring slaves.
Maybe I should close the windows.
Ah,
Yeah, so there's three different expertise here. There's the expertise in politics or philosophy, the expertise in managing slaves or mastering, and then the expertise in acquiring slaves. And I don't know that he's doing much more with this last one other than distinguishing it from both of those.
Yeah.
Some expertise are more honorable than others. But for some reason, it seems like it's saying the one of mastery isn't honorable.
It's not that honorable, no.
Mm.
Less than philosophy and politics.
Okay.
They're not to be bothered with such things.
Yeah. I'm a bit Makar.
So you read.
More than a bit.
What is
Yeah, more than a bit.
translate?
Maybe. Yeah. Let's go on further. Maybe there'll be some clarity as we go. I don't
Okay,
know.
we've got to change topics, it looks like, which is fine. I'm ready to move on. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah.
All right. I'll read a little bit here. Chapter 8. But let us examine generally, in accordance with our normal sort of approach, possessions as such and the art of getting goods. Since the slave too turned out to be a part of one's possessions. In the first place, then, one might raise the question whether the art of getting goods is the same as household management, a part of it or subordinate to it. And if subordinate, whether it is so in the way the art of making shuttles is to the art of weaving, or in the way the art of casting bronze is to the art of sculpture. For these are not subordinate in the same way, but the one provides instruments, the other the matter. By the matter, I mean the substance out of which some work is performed. For example, wool for the weaver or bronze for the sculptor. Now, it is clear that household management is not the same as the art of getting goods, for it belongs to the latter to supply and the former to use. For what is the expertise that uses the things in the house, if not expertise in household management? But whether getting goods is a part of it or different in kind is a matter of dispute. Should I stop for a minute here? Should I keep going?
Feels like a natural pause. It's there's a possessions or acquiring goods, then equating that with household management, asking if that's the same thing. Then this distinction between the material that is used in a work and then the instrument that is used to shape the material, I guess, or is used on the material. Those are different possessions. And that's contained in the question of household management.
So usually when he asks a question and he gives two options, and then he gives two options that follow from one of the two options, that's probably the one he's thinking about, right? So what are the two options? Is acquisition the same as household management or subordinate to it? And if it is subordinate to it, is it subordinate in this way or that way? Probably he thinks it's subordinate to it. All right, so what are the two ways of being subordinate here?
So is household management the same as acquisition, or is it subordinate?
Or is acquisition
And
subordinate?
then, okay, he hasn't answered.
Or it could be a part.
Okay, well, acquisition's the art of getting goods.
Yeah.
But there seems more to household management than getting goods. So then acquisition would be a part of household management. And to be a part of is one form of being subordinate to.
Mm.
Well, why is it a part of? It's because there's also the use of instruments in household management.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really talked that much about what household management is, but it seems to be something to do with taking care of the needs of the members of your household, making sure all your needs are met. So is
Mm.
acquiring stuff to fill your needs, is that the same as household management? Is that a part of household management? Is that subordinate to household management? You got to acquire stuff to run a household. Part of running a household is food, shelter, and clothing. You got to get the stuff to make the clothes and to build the house and to eat. But is the household management, is it using that stuff? And if it's using that stuff, the acquiring of it, is that part of the household management, or is that subordinate to it? And if it's subordinate to it, is it subordinate in the way that what is it, the shuttle is to the art of weaving, or making shuttles is to the art of weaving, or casting bronze is to the art of sculpture? Well, what's the difference between those two?
Yeah, it sounds like the same thing.
That's the difference we need to talk about here.
The shuttle and the cast.
The shuttle and the bronze, yeah.
The
Is
the
is the
shuttle weaves
bronze
the material.
thing, is the bronze the material that's used to make the the thing, and so it's not separated from the thing when it's done? Else the shuttle does the work, but is not a part of the end product. Is
Yeah.
that the difference?
What are Aristotle's fancy words for those two things? What's the bronze? Fancy. None of
It's
the words are fancy.
substance.
The matter. So not substance.
Come again? The matter,
Not
yeah.
substance,
The
matter.
matter,
Yeah.
not
Material. Yeah.
mm,
And the shuttle is not, it's not going to be there in the matter of what's weaved. It's part of the thing doing the weaving. It's closer to the
that's more
form.
for mm,
Yeah, what's analogous to the bronze in the weaving?
I guess a tool. Uh, I don't know. The shuttle seems like more like a tool.
The shuttle's more like a tool. So what's the matter in the weaving? What's the material?
It would be I suppose, the wool. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's difficult. It's very difficult. I see.
You have your dojo.
Yeah, I gave the other one to Mo. Does he need the other keys? Sorry.
It's all right. Hi, Abile.
It's already gone.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, what was uh, uh completely forgot. One is the tool, one is the material. So I guess
Yeah. So
I guess bronze
the
would be like wool.
yeah. I don't know how often you have to replace the shuttle when you're weaving. I'm sure you have to replace it fairly regularly, but not as much as you'd have to replace the wool. Not as much as you'd have to replace the bronze, because the bronze it's not part of the weaving or the sculpting. It's the stuff that's weaved or sculpted, woven or sculpted. So you got to acquire that stuff.
Mm.
You got to acquire it every time you do the activity. Is that the acquisition that's part of the household management, or is it the acquisition of the stuff that you don't have to acquire over and over again, that doesn't just come in and out of the household, that's part of the actual doing of the household, the form of the household? But two different types of acquisition.
Seems seems more like the bronze. Seems more like the bronze one for some reason. I don't know, maybe
Household
I'm
management.
jumping ahead. Yeah, I mean, to the things, just I got asked the same question we just asked about these things, to the things which a person acquires for household management last, or do they have to keep acquiring them over and over again?
Well,
Maybe
my
we
sense
should.
would be both.
Come again?
The the material that has to be replenished, so like the bronze or like the wool, as the art of getting goods or the acquisition, um, and and the instruments that are used to shape the material. Both of those seem to be involved in household management. So then household management is more than the art of getting goods or of acquisition.
Definitely seems like we are, even though it looks like he's just assuming the answer, we are kind of, it is becoming clear that household management is much more than acquisition.
Mm.
It looks like even acquisition is more than acquisition, because there's acquisition of stuff that we're going to manipulate, and then there's acquisition of the stuff that helps us to manipulate, the bronze and the shuttle being the two examples, or the shuttle and the wool. Then there's also the manipulating of the stuff, the using the shuttle is also would also be part of household management. That's also something I have to manage. It's not clear why we're talking about this yet. We lost Sipa.
Yeah. It was striking me as you're reading this thing of the making difference. Like people just said now that he's finding something really difficult or something difficult. I was wondering about this, just this activity that Aristotle seems involved in, that is like it's just involved in making distinctions, and that it's kind of it can almost seem like a strange mode or a strange thing to do, like like why do that? And then I was thinking about like the um reasonable or the resistance to that activity almost. It was just striking me as it did a few sessions ago, just say that there's a real difficulty in even just coming to that activity. I mean, like why do you think that's so? I guess I'm just taking a different theme to wait if Sipo jumps on again.
Why is there such a resistance to making distinctions?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. Sipa, are you with us again?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, connection issues just kicked me out.
All right.
You guys
Yeah,
there?
Daniel just asked why he feels such a resistance to making distinctions, and a lot of the time it seems like all Aristotle is doing, or I'm putting words in your mouth here. I'm making it worse than you made it. Seems like all Aristotle's doing is making distinctions. So I don't know. Your resistance may be different than other people's resistance, but it might be similar to my own, and I think of it a lot in this sense. I don't think we can help but make distinctions, actually. I think that's in some sense what we do when we interact with the world, whether we want to or not. The question or Aristotle's concern is not that I don't think he's advocating for making distinctions and against not making distinctions, which of course is already a distinction. It's a big distinction. I think what he's interested in doing is what's sometimes referred to as carving nature at the joints, making the right distinctions, the natural distinctions. And I always think about a way of thinking about it that makes it seem less dry and irrelevant is this story from Chuang-Tzu, the Taoist guy. You guys may have read some Chuang-Tzu with Marius at some point. There's a story about the butcher of Lu. Do you know the story? Do you remember what I'm talking about, Daniel? This emperor sees this butcher carving up a cow or an ox or something, and he's amazed by the butcher, and then he asks the butcher, I don't remember what he asks him actually, but the butcher starts talking about how when he first started, he used to have to sharpen his knife every day. And then after a few years, he had to sharpen his knife every month, and then so on and so forth. And now he never has to sharpen. and it doesn't even feel like he's cutting, but the knife just follows the joint. When he gets to something difficult, he just looks at it and he thinks about it, and it's like the meat falls apart in front of him, just falls apart in his hands. And then there's all this stuff about how the joints are enormous, and the knife edge really has no takes up no space at all. And so what's the point? The idea is that nature has distinctions in it, and Aristotle's not trying to make distinctions. He's trying to find the distinctions. He's trying to show the way that things relate to each other and how they are distinguished. Not so that he can cut something up, but so that he can understand the way things are in relation to each other. And I mean, if you think about the distinctions he's making, what's the difference between ruling a free person and ruling a slave? It's an interesting distinction, especially if we want to engage in politics. Well, make that distinction, I have to understand what ruling is. I don't know. This is maybe in some sense where he's going with this discussion, although it's not clear yet. If I'm going to understand what ruling is, I have to understand, well, what about acquiring things? Is that something that the ruler has to do? Well, I don't know. Even that could depend on a further distinction. There's different kinds of acquiring. There's the acquiring that's connected to you see how the meat sort of falls apart in front of you. The acquiring of the stuff that belongs to the form or the shaper, and the acquiring of the stuff that belongs to the material.
Yeah, I see your point. When you say, I see your point when you say, you don't know how we cannot distinguish. Thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I'm always suspicious of people who claim that, yeah, we really shouldn't make so many distinctions and shouldn't distinguish between people or distinguish between ideas. I mean, they are making distinctions. So what they're saying is that we shouldn't be aware of the distinctions that we're making, and we shouldn't think about these. Well, what could be more important? These distinctions are dangerous. Of course, we should be thinking about them. To make sure we get them right. We don't want to turn somebody into a slave who isn't actually a slave. That's the worst case scenario. We'll force somebody to be a master who shouldn't be a master. Force. Turn somebody into a master when they shouldn't be a master.
I suppose that will do him harm. Just something we associate with just being intrinsically good. Like being a master is just intrinsically better than being.
Yeah, that's you're sort of paraphrasing another distinction that Aristotle always makes. Some things are just some things seem to be intrinsically good, but they're not good for everybody. And it's not because of them that they're not good for everybody. It's because not everybody is suited to them. Trying to think of a good example here. But none is coming to mind. But we want to identify who we are so we can distinguish what it is that is good for us from what it is that is bad for us, and from what it is that is good in itself, but that we're not equipped to receive yet.
Mm. The example of athletes come to mind. Some athletes are just good athletes, horrible coaches. Some athletes are just horrible at being athletes, but when they start coaching, they're just way better than anyone ever was at coaching. Mm.
Yeah, this is you would think that Michael Jordan would be good at running a basketball team. So he was such a good basketball player, maybe probably the best ever. He has owned and run a basketball team in North Carolina for the last, I think he's run them since he retired. So I don't know, 20 something years. And he's terrible at it. They're never good. It's bizarre.
And a far better athlete.
Yeah, and there's a guy right now, the coach of the Golden State Warriors, used to be on Michael Jordan's team and was a good player, but he wasn't nearly as good as Michael Jordan, but he's a great coach. Don't let me start talking about
Different
basketball.
requirements.
The playoffs, I'm already too distracted.
I guess it's the point you were bringing up, just different requirements. And some people are just better suited than the other requirements than others.
Yeah, it's kind of unintelligible that Michael Jordan's so bad at being a general manager. It's not like he was a stupid player. Like if he was just like a physical specimen who was wasn't very smart as a basketball player then, but he was a smart basketball player.
Sometimes it's easier to motivate yourself than to motivate a group of other people.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
I think you kind of you hit the nail on the head in this case, actually, Sipo. Michael Jordan was just insanely motivated, and it does not make sense. He cannot relate to players that don't have this unbelievable desire to win. He just doesn't. It doesn't make any sense to him.
Mm. Awful coach can't relate to people. Awful coach. Strange. When the hell did Aristotle throw us at basketball? No?
I don't know. That's my fault. Maybe we should go back to the text here and keep reading.
Yeah.
Should I carry? Should I carry on, or you want to carry on?
You want to read a little bit?
Yeah, let me just shoot here. Wool is the material of the weaver, bronze of the statuary. Yeah, I think we're here. Now it is easy to see that the art of household management is not identical with the art of getting wealth. Is that where we are?
It's close enough. Keep going from there.
Okay. For the one uses the material which the other provides. For the art which uses household stores can be no other than the art of household management. Yeah. There is, however, a doubt whether the art of getting wealth is a part of the household management or a distinct art. If the getter of wealth has to consider whence wealth and property can be procured, but there are many sorts of property and riches, then are husbandry and the care and provision of food in general in general, parts of the wealth getting art of distinct arts or distinct arts. But again, there are many sorts of food, and therefore there are many kinds of lives, both of animals and men. But they must all have food, and the differences in their food have made differences in their way of life. For beasts, some are gregarious, others are solitary, they live in a way which is best adapted to sustain them, accordingly as they are carnivorous or herbivorous or omnivorous, and their habits are determined for them by nature in such a manner that they may obtain with greater facility the food of their choice. But as different species have different tastes, the same things are not naturally pleasant to all of them, and therefore the lives of carnivorous or herbivorous animals further differ among themselves. In the lives of man, there too, there is great difference. The laziest are shepherds who lead who lead an idle life and get their flocks having to wander from place to place in search of pasture. They are compelled to follow them, cultivating a sort of living farm. Others support themselves by hunting, which is of different kinds. Some, for example, are brigands. Others who dwell near lakes or marshes or rivers or a sea in which they are fishermen, and others live by the pursuit of birds or wild beasts. The greater number obtain a living from the cultivated fruits of the soil. Should I keep going?
I don't know. Maybe we should just pause for a second and ask why he's talking about all this stuff and then keep going.
There's a lot.
Talking about carnivores and herbivores all of a sudden.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
I was under the impression he was making the distinction to emphasize how you're ruling over all, if you're ruling over multiple things with, I guess, multiple needs, multiple requirements. Never mind. I don't know where I was going with this. Now I lost complete track of my thought. It's gone. Whatever I was about to
yeah,
say is just gone from my head.
I'm definitely missing the link as well.
Go for
How we get.
Yeah, I'm also this is why I wasn't sure if we should go on or not. It's hard to see the link, and I don't know which one will be more helpful. I'm also struggling to see the link here. So he starts talking about farming, and it's clear that farming and acquisition are very different. Farming is you're growing food, you're not acquiring food. But there's lots of acquisition that has to go on to do farming. You got to acquire the tools, like the weaver has to acquire the shuttle. Got to acquire the seeds, acquire the water to water your land. So it's from the farming example, it seems like the acquisition is distinguished from the management. And then he goes on to these different kinds of hunters here. these carnivores and herbivores, and that the life they live is connected to the type of acquisition they do. Seems like an emphasis that acquisition is a part of household management. I mean, obviously, herbivorous and carnivorous animals don't have households, but they have something analogous. And the way they run their household depends on the type of acquisition they do. So the acquisition is at least subordinate to the household management. Still unclear what's going on here, though.
Yeah.
Maybe let's keep going a little bit and see if he ties it back together.
Mm.
You want to read or you want me to read, Sipo?
I completely lost track of where I was.
Okay, I think I know where
You
we are.
pick it up. It'll be
Okay, it's at 1256A 40 here. The ways of life are then about this many, or at least those which involve self-generated work and do not supply sustenance through exchange and commerce. The way of life of the nomad, the farmer, the brigand, the fisher, and the hunter. There are also some who live pleasantly by combining several of these in order to compensate for the shortcomings of one way of life where it happens to be lacking in sufficiency. For example, some can combine the nomad's life with the brigand's, some the farmers with the hunters, and similarly with others as well. They pass their time in the manner that need, together with pleasure, compels them to. Now, property of this sort is evidently given by nature itself to all animals, both immediately from birth and when they have reached completion. For at birth, from the very beginning, some animals provide at the same time as much sustenance as is adequate until the offspring can supply itself. For example, those that give birth to larvae or eggs. While those that give birth to live offspring have sustenance for these in themselves for a certain period. The natural substance is called milk. It is clear in a similar way, therefore, that for grown things as well, one must suppose both that plants exist for the sake of animals and that the other animals exist for the sake of human beings. The tame animals, both for use and sustenance, and most, if not all, of the wild animals for sustenance and other assistance, in order that clothing and other instruments may be got from them. If then nature makes nothing that is incomplete or purposeless, nature must necessarily have made all of these for the sake of human beings. Big claim there. Hence, the art of war will also be, in some sense, a natural form of the acquisitive art, not inquisitive. For one part of it is expertise in hunting, which should be used with a view both to beasts and to those human beings who are naturally suited to be ruled but unwilling, this sort of war being by nature just. One kind of acquisitive art, then, is by nature a part of household management and must either be available or be supplied by the latter so as to be available. The art of acquiring those goods, a store of which is both necessary for life and useful for the community of a city or household. At any rate, it would seem to be these things that make up genuine wealth. For sufficiency in possessions of this sort, with a view to a good life, is not limitless, as Solon asserts it to be in his poem. Of wealth no boundary lies revealed to men. There is such a boundary, just as in the other arts, For there is no art that has an instrument that is without limit either in number or in size, and wealth is the aggregate of instruments belonging to household managers and political rulers. That there is a natural art of acquisition for household managers and political rulers then, and the cause of this is clear.
What was that last line? There's a natural?
Nothing about that was clear. Sorry.
There's a natural art of acquisition for household managers and political rulers, and the cause of this is clear.
Ah,
I love it when he throws
that
How
really,
clear?
clear thing in.
How was
that
info that clear?
from that claim of nature has nothing incomplete or purposeless, and that it must serve it something about everything in nature serving us, or but what stuck out for me, what in terms of what followed that, was the idea of the art of acquisition was suddenly quite large. So it seems then like household management is something like um, a part of the art of acquisition. That yeah, I guess that's the most that was the clearest and the, I guess, most striking impression for me from that passage was this idea of the art of acquisition being quite large.
You want to say household management is a part of the art of acquisition.
It seemed like it. It seems like that's where it went. Because the household management partakes of parts of that art, but the art itself is larger. For instance, it applies to or is involved in distinguishing a just war from an unjust war.
But isn't acquisition possible without managing a household?
Is managing a household possible without acquisition?
I don't think it is. There wouldn't be anything in the house. There wouldn't be anything in the household.
Yeah, we wouldn't have much to eat. I don't even know if we'd have a house. We have to acquire the stuff to build a house.
Household, yeah, there might not be a household.
How do we know how much we need to acquire? How much of a part of household management is acquisition? There may be other types of acquisition, Daniel. I don't think Aristotle would dispute that. But how much of a part of household management is acquisition, and how do we tell?
Enough to keep the household running, surviving, functioning. I don't know.
Yeah,
Just
doing what
enough
it
that
does.
the household continue to exist.
Yeah, we've got some thing that we're trying to do in managing the household. There's some form to household management, I shouldn't have jumped to the word form, but there's something that we're doing in managing a household. We're trying to accomplish something. And we determine how much stuff we need to acquire in relation to that doing something. And probably how to acquire it as well, because we don't know how much. We have to know how many resources we can dedicate to acquisition, for instance. Got to use the analogy of the horse rider and the bridle maker here. Just like bridle making is sort of like an acquisition of bridles, allows for riding horses. This acquisition of stuff is going to allow for managing a household. And what we need for the managing of the household is going to dictate how and how much we acquire stuff. But that's what it means for one activity to be part of another activity. If one activity is limited and defined by another activity that it is for the sake of, then it's a part of that activity. In that way, acquisition is a part of household management. Tells us how much we need. It tells us when we're done. He's disagreeing with this line from Solon's poem here. Of wealth, no boundary lies revealed to men. No, there's complete boundary to wealth. The boundary is dictated by the management of the household. The acquisition is ruled by the household management.
Well, then our question is, what is the household for, or what is it doing when it's doing what it does?
Back to the same old question here.
Yeah, it's like the
yeah.
It's like this I guess this is like a reflection on the timing of the question, because it can be posed at like a in a way that's interruptive, and it's probably related to this like the practice of making distinctions. I think Larry used the words a few weeks ago about the Aristotle's arguments having like this all the more so quality. And we've also used like the word like the babbling. And so it's the timing of the question of like, okay, well, what is the function of this uh, nested unit? It fits into the function of what it's nested in, and then what's the function of that? And um, the timing of that question seems, it has a timing, and it seems to be related to this activity of um, distinctions, making distinctions. But that doesn't help me answer it at all.
Making all these distinctions and coming back again and again to the same central question. What is it that we're doing here? What is the household manager like? What's the end that he is working towards? And even more than the household manager, this is not a work of economics. Economics is just household management. It's a work of politics. What is it that the state is doing as a whole? It's allowing it to dictate all the lower forms, possibly including the household. We don't know yet about the relationship between the free household and the state as a whole.
Yeah. No,
Oh, we got to stop here in a minute. I got to stop here in a minute anyways. Looks like we're losing Sipo. Maybe give him a second.
Yeah, it feels
say goodbye.
good timing though. I think it's good. a good place.
Yeah, so we
What
finished
was that?
chapter.
What was that last line in chapter 8? That was chapter 8.
Yeah, we just finished chapter 8. That there is a natural art of acquisition for household managers and political rulers then, and the cause of this is clear.
Oh,
Yeah, through and political rulers at the end there, just to show that, to remind us that that's what we're really interested in. Because we've gotten back to the central question, as you pointed out, Daniel, that all of this depends on what the whole is doing, what the purpose of it all is.
yeah. It's a good end.
All right. So chapter 9, are we gonna try to meet next week, same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that all right? You said I'll check the
Uh,
sequel.
that's Tuesday, the 6th of May, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At 6 p.m.
Yeah,
South African
next week.
time.
Are
Yeah.
we?
Yeah, great. That works for me.
When are you heading? When are you coming back, Larry?
I'm flying to Cape Town on July 7th. And then working my way east from there. You miss me.
Have you
Just
decided what you?
Just say yes.
A little bit. A little bit.
Good enough. Good enough.
Not the
I'll
same.
take it.
Not the same.
And when is your household getting bigger? You have a date? A due date?
I think September.
September.
I
Sometimes.
think. Not sure. This is frozen again.
No, we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
So
yeah.
yeah. Question now is, yeah. Have you decided what you're going to be teaching?
No. How many postgrad students are there right now? Do you know?
Fuck, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
I only know the guys who are tutoring. And from the guys who are tutoring, it's postgrads about like 4 or 5 of us, I think.
Okay.
And ones of the else.
Goodwin and Peter. Isn't a lady around?
I think so, yeah. There's Naledi, Peter, Machau,
Okay.
Josh. So it might
Okay.
be six or seven of us. Huh?
Well, if you see them
Sabine.
ever, ask them what they're interested in, and we can figure something out. You said you want to do some Kant, is that right?
Yeah. But I will settle for Aristotle or thingy, Plato. I've got nothing against Aristotle and Plato. It's just that I've never done, well, besides that aesthetics course, I've never done a counted postgrad. So
Right. Yeah. All right.
Uh,
Ask.
the
what's
the
that?
I'm a bit
You a bit?
I was say what?
We
The
could
You're
we
saying
couldn't
you're a
hear what
bit
you
I'm a
what?
said.
bit removed. I'm
Every
a bit
time you say
removed, but
that
I was
word.
thinking,
Okay.
yes,
No, I'm saying
the
every time you say that word,
the
I can't hear.
um I started reading Zizek Less Than Nothing just this weekend. I had to do a long drive, so I was on the audiobook, and I thought it would be a good suggestion. Um, Yeah,
That's
so that's
possible. It's
What is
that's my
unlikely.
suggestion.
Unlikely. Are you going to be?
Unlikely.
You're not going to be around Grahamstown though.
No, no.
No, it
I
would be
mean,
great if you could join us.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard to say more than a few months at a time at the moment. So that's also it also makes it a possibility.
Oh, good.
you've
No, the
become
most modern thing I've thought about is Heidegger. I might be interested in doing some Heidegger.
I'll send you. I know you're reading quite carefully and writing on Parmenides on the Platonic dialogue, and it was there's a it's part of the first chapter in Less Than Nothing, an account of Parmenides. So I'll send my sense of what he's saying, and I'll see if that uh, is any kind of hook.
All right. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Something interesting on the Parmenides would be a hook for sure.
Right, right.
But yeah, I'm wide open, Sipa. So see if you can get a sense for me of what people want to do.
study. You will not be getting anything from me. I think you've gotten enough things written by me for a lifetime. Anyway, gents, I'll see you guys.
All right, fellas.
I'll go eat.
See you guys next week.
Thank you both.
Have a good
Ciao,
week.
ciao.
Bye.
You too.
Ah,